Hi, Morgan with a Bin Answer here with step-by-step instructions on how you can make this peppermint swirl decoration for your front porch or next holiday party. Check out the description box below for printable directions as well as a shopping list of everything you'll need to make this for yourself. So let's jump right into the project. For this project, you're going to need to pick up a 2x4 foot panel of pink insulation foam, and this one is 2 inches thick. And out of this foam, we're going to cut 3 circles, a 12-inch circle, an 18-inch circle, and a 24-inch circle. And these will make up the peppermints of our display. I'm using a tape measure here to figure out the diameter of my first circle, and then utilizing a wood skewer, a Sharpie, and some string to make my first circle. This is just a quick and easy way to come up with a round image, but you can also use bowls and trays that you can trace to make a nice circle. The main thing is we want something that's very consistent because we'll be using this as a template to cut out our circles in a moment. From here, once you have the pattern on, rough cut out the circle into a loose square, and we're going to take this over to the bandsaw. So once we've started up the bandsaw, just follow the lines that you've marked previously with your circle pattern and go all the way around using nice smooth motion. I found that if I had to stop and alter, it gave me a little bit of a rough cut and I had to go back and go over that part. So take it nice and slow and smoothly push it through the bandsaw, cutting off the excess as you go. Now if you don't have a bandsaw for this project, you can also use a hot knife or a hot wire tool, or even a jigsaw or bread knife with a nice steady sawing motion. The important thing here is to keep a nice 90-degree cut on the foam. If it angles a little bit, it can make your candy look a little wonky as it goes around. So keep a nice square cut here as you go around, trying to be as smooth as possible. Repeat this step for all 3 of your circles. As you're going along, keep the corners that you're cutting off. We'll be using those later on in the project. The next step is to route a groove into the back of the circles, and this is for the 1x2 piece of wood to sit down into the candy piece, allowing the backs to be flush. This is a totally optional moment here. I knew that my piece would be seen from the back side during my event, and I wanted a nice, clean, smooth back for it. So if yours isn't going to be seen, if this will be up against a wall or something, you can definitely glue on your piece of wood to the back and not have to countersink it like I'm doing. But if you want to, grab a straight-edged router bit and make sure you have a nice straight edge to route against, as we want a really tight fit for the wood. So I had a little bit of help here to hold a straight edge for me as I went over all 3 pieces to cut out the center groove. And as you can see, this makes a lot of mess, so be prepared for a lot of pink snow as you're setting up this project. Take a shop vac and clean off everything very thoroughly here. You don't want any of that purple snow being in the grooves as we go to glue, which is our next step here. So I'm test fitting the wood into the groove that I've made and trying to get the spacing nice and even. I wanted the wood to be flush with the top piece, which you can see there, and then in between each of the candy pieces I wanted a 5-inch gap. I then marked this location with a marker so that when I pull this apart so I can add the glue, I can easily put this back together to the right dimensions without having to fiddle with it as the glue is drying on me. I'm using expanding glue for this project, which requires water to be sprayed on 1/2 of the glued piece. So I have a popsicle stick that I cut the end off of, and I'll be using that to spread the glue around in the groove that we made earlier. And I just want to make sure to get a nice even coat of this. As this is the only way I'll be attaching the foam to the wood, I wanted to make sure that there's a really good adhesion between the 2 pieces. Once I had applied glue to all 3 of the circles, I grabbed my board again and aligned it with the marks I made earlier so that all the distances are 5 inches apart. The glue doesn't adhere instantly, so you have a little bit of working time to shimmy those pieces around and make sure it's exact. I added a little bit of pressure to make sure everything was fitting snugly, The glue does expand though, so any gaps there was that weren't cut correctly, the glue will fill that up and you won't see any gaps when we're done. And then I added weights just so it keeps a nice tight hold on it until the glue dries. Once the glue sets, we're ready for paint. I'm using some latex house paint here, but you can definitely use acrylic paint as well to cover your prop. You want to make sure you get the front, the back, and the edges with 2 coats of paint. Get a nice even coverage here. The important thing is that you use latex or acrylic. You do not want to use spray paint on this project for the base coat because the solvents in the spray paint will eat the foam. I've definitely seen other projects go from perfect to warped very quickly, so you want to make sure that your base coat at least is acrylic or latex. And this gives us a really great coverage because there is printing on the insulation foam in a black ink, and we want to make sure we're covering that really thoroughly. So 2 coats is really important for this step on the front and the back, because I did just do 1 coat initially and you can still see that text through the white paint. So make sure you're really thorough here, your front and your back. The sides aren't quite as important. I went all the way around, but you don't have to get really close to that wood piece there. I did paint the wood white, but if there's a little bit of pink there, you're not going to see it because we'll be adding a bow in that gap, so you don't have to be absolutely perfect in that area. Once I had gotten both coats on it, I set it aside to dry and went on to the next step. The next step is to add the swirl to our candies. And because I was making a bunch of these, I didn't want to hand paint swirls onto every candy, so I decided to make a template that I could use and spray paint the red onto the white backdrop. To do this, you'll need a piece of poster board and draw your peppermint swirl onto that. I actually started here with craft paper and it wasn't heavy enough, and the spray paint was just blowing it all around. So be smarter than I was and use poster board and not craft paper. But once I had it drawn on there, I took a X-Acto blade and cut it out. The circle does need to be slightly bigger than the biggest circle, so about 25 inches was the diameter of my template, and that way I made sure the entire circle got red clear to the edge. So here's that poster board template. I'm using a little bit of red spray paint and a popsicle stick to hold that template into place because the air from the spray was just picking up the edge of the template, so I was using the popsicle stick to hold it in place. And you want to use light coats of spray paint here. So like I mentioned earlier, we used that latex paint as a base coat, and the spray paint shouldn't get through that latex coat, but if there's a lot of spray paint and it pools in an area, it could potentially eat into the foam through that latex paint. So nice light coats all the way around, and here you can see those pink triangles that I was using from earlier. I used that to keep the template nice and level because it wanted to sag around the edge of the candy and it was lifting up the center points of that template. So keep those scraps from earlier and use it to hold your template in place. So go ahead and spray paint all of your circles. You can do the front and the back. I only opted to do the front, and there you go. Once the paint has dried on everything, you'll want to add 2 large bows in the gaps between the candies. Click the link above for a tutorial on how I made this bow using 2 colored ribbons for this project. Once you have your bows made, take a chenille stem and tightly twist it to the frame. Once you have everything assembled, you've got your bows attached. The last step is to screw it to its base. It's just a couple of pocket hole screws from the 1x2 down into a 12-inch square. But if you'd like extra support, an L bracket does a wonderful job of doing that. At the event, what we did was we took some batting and hid the base with it so it looked like a pile of snow and you can't see the wood on the bottom. This is a great project to add to any party, an easy weekend project, and adds just a boost of fun to your next event. It is made out of foam, so you need to be careful in transporting it. It's easy to dent it, but it's so lightweight, it's nice to carry in and out. If this was all made out of wood, it would be really heavy. So light was what we were shooting for, but with that comes the drawback of easy denting. With all these steps, I hope you've enjoyed the project. Like I said, you can do this in a weekend and have it ready for your next party. If you like this project and want to see more just like it, click the subscription button below so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks for watching. Bye!